My name is Asia Sampson, and today on Baptism Overland, we're talking off-road communications. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but lately all of my videos have been on off-road communication equipment. We added the Midland MXT575 GMRS radio on the 4Runner, upgraded the MXT275 on the Jeep to the 575 as well, did a review on the new Midland MXMC01 handheld, and also we installed the WeBoost cell signal booster on the Jeep. So I figured I'd wrap all of that together into just one discussion video on off-road communications because it's definitely something that you're going to need. Now, quick disclaimer, I am not an expert by any means. Like, there are a ton of people out there who really know off-grid communications. In fact, there are some awesome channels you can follow, like Not a Rubicon Productions is a great channel if you really want to learn about radio communications. I just feel like I have the equipment now. I have everything that I need. My setup is complete, that it warrants having this kind of a discussion. I will welcome all of you who really know your communications and are into this type of stuff. Leave your comments below. Like, let us know what you run. Let us know if there's anything that I'm getting wrong. This is a discussion, so feel free to drop it in the comments below and we can definitely have that talk. Now, when it comes to off-road communications, I like to simplify things by dividing it into two separate categories: convoy communications and emergency communications. Let's start with convoy. Now, convoy communications is just that. It's you along with a group of people hitting the trails, and you need to be able to communicate with everyone in your convoy. And there are a multitude of ways you can do that. There's everything from FRS to GMRS to ham to CB. The general rule of thumb is that you want to run the system that the group is running. So if everybody's on CB radios, then you may want to get yourself a CB radio. If you have the best and newest GMRS radio, but no one else in your group runs GMRS, then you can't talk to anybody. Now, if nobody in the group has any kind of system at all, I mean, technically you can use one of these because everybody has a cell phone, but that would be highly impractical. That would mean you'd have to keep calling each other, number one, or stay on the phone, and that'll just kill your battery. Or when you hit those spots where there's not going to be any signal, which happens about 70% of the time, you're kind of SOL. If you're going out with a group and no one in the group has any kind of radio communication system at all, then my advice is you guys go to your nearest outdoor store or your nearest Walmart and just pick up some regular walkie-talkies. They're super cheap, less than 50 bucks, and as long as you're not going that far away from one another, you'll at least be able to communicate. Those walkie-talkies run on a frequency we call FRS, or Family Radio Service. They're low wattage, low power. They're the kinds that your kids can play with. In fact, when you get to camp, have the kids run around with them, and they're fine. The problem with them is that their range is very limited. Because they're low wattage, low power, you're going to end up getting units that have fixed antennas. You can't get a longer antenna for better range. All FRS radios will have a fixed antenna, and there's nothing you can do about that. That's just FCC guidelines. Now, let's say FRS is just not enough for you. It's not enough power. You want to step it up. Well, you could step it up to the thing that everyone has been using a lot lately, which is GMRS. In fact, my group runs with GMRS. That's General Mobile Radio Service. It just gives you a lot more power. In fact, some of the radios out there max out at like 50 watts of power. You'll be able to get a lot more range with them. The only downside about GMRS is that you do need a license to operate it. But guess what? GMRS license, you don't have to take a test. You could just go online, apply, and it's like $35 for 10 years. That's a really long time at a really low cost. And it covers everyone in your family. So you don't need to get a license for you, your spouse, your kids. You get one license for yourself and it works for your entire family. And because GMRS is higher powered, you can get GMRS radios where you can switch out the antenna and get bigger antenna and get even more range. These right here are the Midland X Talkers, and these are FRS and GMRS radios. Now, these radios, channels 1 through 7, are lower wattage GMRS channels. Channels 8 to 14 are FRS channels, and then channels 15 to 22 are the higher watt GMRS channels. What's good about these is that if you're running with a group and no one has a GMRS license and they're all running regular walkie-talkies, you can still talk to them with one of these. You just have to be in the channels between 8 and 14. But if you're running with a group that has GMRS licenses and they have GMRS, then you can definitely use these. Downside is, again, these are going to be battery operated. They're going to die out after a while. And because these have FRS channels on them, we can't switch out the antenna. The antenna is fixed. You can't get a longer one. So you're not going to get a lot of range with these because they have the shorter antenna due to those FRS channels. Now, if you want to step up from the handhelds, my advice would be to get a vehicle mounted radio like the Midland MXT275 GMRS radio. Now, this was my first unit, the MXT275. I've since upgraded to the MXT575 and it's awesome. But having a vehicle mounted one will give you a lot more range. Not to mention, it's powered by your vehicle, so you're not going to be running out of batteries. You could possibly drain your vehicle's battery if you forget to turn this thing off, but what I like about this is that all the controls are on the handheld itself, so that when you get to camp or when you get home, just unplug the unit, put the handheld away, and that automatically turns this thing off, so you know it's not going to drain your battery. Plus, having a vehicle mounted system will allow you to put an antenna on your vehicle that will give you a ton of range. So you can use the antenna that this comes with, or you can upgrade to their Ghost antenna, which is smaller, or their Whip antenna, which will give you, I believe, 6 dBs of gain. Having a better antenna is more important than having like the best radio. It's all about the antenna. It's all about the range. So having a GMRS unit that's plugged into your vehicle, then you'll be able to switch out the antenna for that and get more range on that. Just a quick plug that Midland also just recently came out with the new MXMC01 handheld, which works with the MXT275 and 575 radios. Just much nicer, much bigger screen. You're getting a lot more information with this. Runs about $90 if you want to upgrade the existing handheld that you get with the MXT275 and 575. Don't get it twisted though, you still need your handhelds. You still want to have handhelds because if you're hitting the trails and someone needs to step out of your vehicle and guide you through an obstacle, you need to be able to hand them one of these so that they can talk to you through that obstacle. Like, you can't use the vehicle mounted one because the downside about having a vehicle mounted radio is just that it's stuck in the vehicle. So I like to run both systems. I have this one that's inside the vehicle, and I have these ones on the side that I hand off to a spotter, or we actually use these when we go to like Zion, and when we hit the Narrows, we were using these to communicate with one another. So this will give you a lot more range on the GMRS side. Although not that much range, you'll still get enough range to be able to communicate to one another. So having handhelds and having a vehicle mounted GMRS radio is just the way to go. Now, I'm just going to touch on this real briefly because I know a lot of people out there still run CB radios and ham radios. CB radios was the standard for a while. Like, if you were off-roading a long time ago, then you probably had a CB radio. In fact, truckers were using CB radios, but I've found that CB is one of those techs that's starting to become outdated. Not many people are running CBs anymore, especially with the clarity and the range that you get out of GMRS. So if you're running CB, or if your group is running CB, then you could still consider getting one of those. Now, there's also ham, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about emergency communications. But to operate a ham radio, you need a ham license, and to get a ham license, you have to take the test. And the chances of, unless you're some part of radio club, the chances of everybody in your group running ham is going to be very slim. In fact, I don't even think anyone in my group has a ham license because you have to go through the studying and then getting it. I would suggest you still take it, but as far as communications with your convoy, it's going to be very difficult to get everybody on ham because it would mean everyone would need that license. All that to say, it's why I run with GMRS. It's the popular thing that a lot of people are running right now. It's very easy to get a license. You just need to apply, and then you'll get your license in about a couple of weeks. And it has really strong frequency and very, very clear signal. So when it comes to convoy communications, I would suggest going with GMRS, especially if everybody in your group has GMRS. I think it's just the best way all around to get everybody on the same page. So now let's talk emergency communications. Imagine you're out there, you're having a good time, and you're adventuring, and someone gets hurt, or someone gets sick, or your vehicle breaks down and it's not something that you could fix right there on the spot. You need to get your vehicle back to civilization to have it fixed, or you need to get somebody to the hospital to get medical attention. These are the times that you're going to need to be able to communicate to the outside world. And in this kind of a scenario, I'm going to walk you through my progression on how I go about doing that. First step for me, the phone. Like, this is the one tried and true way to contact people that's outside of your vicinity. Make a phone call. The downside is that 75% of the time, you're gonna be in an area where there's gonna be very little or no cell signal at all. And that's when I take it up to my second progression, which is the WeBoost. WeBoost is a cell signal booster. We installed one on the Jeep just last week, and what's great about the WeBoost is that it takes whatever small signal that's out there and amplifies it. So if you're in an area that has like 1 bar, turn the WeBoost on and you'll probably get 3 or 4. Good thing about the WeBoost is that you don't have to pay a subscription for it every month. You don't have to take it to your cell phone carrier and tell them you want to activate it. It's just an antenna that will boost whatever signal is out there and give you more. A couple weeks ago, my friend Brad, we were out on the trail and he injured himself, and we needed to contact his wife to let her know that he was going to be okay. And thank God he had a WeBoost, because we were able to get boosted signal in order to make that call. The downside about having a WeBoost, however, is that if there's no signal out there for it to boost, then it's basically useless. Like, it can't boost something that's not there. It's a cell signal booster. So if you're in an area where there's absolutely no cell signal and you're too far away from any cell towers, then you're not going to get that boosted signal. Pro tip though, when my friend Brad was using his WeBoost, I asked him, how were you able to use it? Because all of our phones say no service. Like, I thought this could only boost whatever signal is out there. And he said, just because your phone says no service, it doesn't mean that there's not a signal out there for it to boost. It just might be too weak for your phone to pick up. So his advice, turn the WeBoost on anyway. You might still be able to get something. The WeBoost is not cheap, runs somewhere around $500 depending on which kit that you get, but it is good peace of mind. And if you want to know more about the WeBoost, go check the video that I released last week. So now let's say we're in an area that has no signal. I turned on the WeBoost and it's not getting anything. My next step of progression from there would be radios. And this is where I really need to get my ham license. I promise you, sometime this year, I am studying for that test and I am getting that license. If you've ever watched shows like The Walking Dead or Stranger Things, and you see them talking into the radio saying, hey, is anybody out there? And they're trying to contact people, that's usually ham. They're a lot more powerful in terms of being able to broadcast and talk to people far away from you, because you're hitting repeater channels, and there are a ton of radio repeater channels out there for you to bounce off of and relay your message. Ham is just something great to have. It may not be something that you're going to use to communicate with the rest of your crew when you're hitting the trails, because not everybody's going to have a ham license, but having ham as another way to communicate with the rest of the world is just a good thing to have, especially here in Florida, where we have hurricanes and the power grid goes down. And when power goes down, cell goes down, everything goes down, but radios still work. So it's kind of a good thing to have that kind of peace of mind. But again, downside to ham, you do have to have a license, and to get that license, you do have to take the test. So if you can find the time to go and do that, I urge that you strongly do that. GMRS is also a viable option, because you can also bounce off repeater channels with GMRS. The downside is that there's not as many GMRS repeater channels as there are ham repeater channels. There are just a ton of ham repeater channels everywhere, because ham has been around for a really, really long time. GMRS, not so much. So you might be in an area where there are no repeater channels for you to bounce off of to relay your message. Hopefully that'll change with the popularity of GMRS. Hopefully one day there's going to be a ton more GMRS repeater channels that we can bounce off of. But as of right now, ham is really the only way to go. So I would implore you to go get your ham license. In fact, get a ham radio anyway, even without the license. Not so you can use it, but during national emergencies, when the government deems it to be a national emergency, we can use ham radios without needing a license for it. All right, so let's say we tried our phones and there's no signal. We tried the WeBoost, still not getting any signal. We tried our radios, but we can't bounce off repeaters with it. My final last-ditch effort would be this: satellite radios. This is the Garmin In-Reach Mini, and as long as you have clear line of sight to the sky, you'll be able to contact someone. This is so invaluable in that you can basically get help from wherever you are, as long as you, again, have clear line of sight. You can contact your family members. You can text message them. A lot of people I know will text their family members, let them know that they're okay or that they got to camp all right. And from home, your family members can actually track where you are. So in the event that you stop responding at some point, they'll know exactly where you are. These Garmin In-Reach devices have a ton of different capabilities depending on the model that you get. This one's the most basic one, the Mini, and all it does is basically talk and text. Like, that's it. But all of them will have the SOS button. That means that if something were to go wrong, you don't necessarily need to call somebody. You just need to press the SOS button and help will be sent your way no matter where you are. The downside, these are not cheap. This device by itself is like 400 bucks, and then to access a satellite network, you have to pay a monthly subscription. Prices will range. Mine runs about $60, and that gives me a couple of free text messages, but then after that, like, you have to pay for it, and every phone call you make, you do get charged per minute. So it's not something you want to use as your main form of communications. This is just in the event of an emergency, you make that call. Good news is you don't have to pay that subscription every month. Like, you can keep this thing turned off in the months that you know you're not going anywhere, and in the months where you know you're going to be out there and you're going to be somewhere, then just activate it. Just don't forget to activate it. That actually happened to me. I had a business trip in Maine where I knew I was not going to have any kind of cell signal, and I get there and remembered that I never activated this thing. And because I had no cell signal, I really couldn't get online to go and activate this thing, so this was basically useless. It was such an uneasy feeling knowing that I had no cell signal and I didn't have my satellite radio to back me up in the event that something happened. Thank God nothing happened. I was fine, but yeah, I'm never letting that happen again. And that is pretty much it. That is my entire system with off-grid communications. It's not a lot. There's going to be people who have a ton of other things, and if you have those other things, drop it in the comments below. I would love to learn even more about what you're using. I know there's stuff like Starlink and all this other stuff that you can have with you. For me, this works though. Like, I have my communications when I'm on a convoy with my friends, and I also have a way to reach the outside world in the event that something happened. I want to try to keep this as simple as I can make it so that I don't get too overwhelmed with communications. I just want to be able to make that phone call or talk to whoever's in my convoy, and that's pretty much it. And if all else fails, I at least will have this to back me up so long as I can see the sky, and I am good. That works for me. Whatever might work for you, your mileage will vary. Again, share it in the comments below. If you like this video, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and also consider supporting us on Patreon so we can continue to make more content like this. And as always, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Baptism Overland. My name is Asia Sampson, and I will see you next time. It doesn't mean that there's no signal out there. Like, there could be a signal out. Son of a